When we talk about a fast phone, what do we really mean? Is it just some number on a spec sheet, a score in a benchmark test, or is it something more, something you can actually feel? Well, today we're going to deconstruct what makes a Nuthel phone feel so fast, from the software all the way down to the silicon. Okay, so here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at the core promise nothing makes about speed. Then, we'll dive into how the software creates that feel of being fast. After that, I'll show you some cool tricks to boost performance yourself. Then we'll get into the raw hardware power, but we'll also look at some of the roadblocks. And finally, we'll tie it all together to figure out what the true meaning of speed really is. All right, let's start at the very beginning. Before we even talk about chips or code, what's the fundamental idea here? What is the promise that nothing is making when they talk about a fast and fluid experience? This quote from a review on BBOM just nails it, doesn't it? The whole goal isn't just about winning some kind of drag race between apps. It's about creating an experience that's stable, free of glitches, and just feels, well, effortless. Like the phone just flies through your day-to-day stuff. Okay, so that's the promise. Now, how does the software actually deliver on that? Because, so much of what we think of as speed has less to do with the processor and everything to do with the user experience itself. At the heart of it all is Nothing OS. The easiest way to think about it is like a version of Android that's had all the unnecessary junk stripped away. The entire focus is on a clean design, really smooth animations, and rock-solid stability. It just creates a UI that feels incredibly pure and responsive. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Nothing OS isn't just stock Android with a new wallpaper. It makes these really smart, practical changes. Like, look at this. In OS 3.0, you can totally customize your quick settings tiles, resize them, move them around, and they move to the brightness slider to the bottom. It seems like a small thing, but it makes it so much easier to use with one hand. It's these little thoughtful touches that make the phone feel faster in the real world. But here's the best part. You're not just along for the ride. Nothing actually gives you the tools to get in there and fine-tune the performance yourself, making your phone feel even snappier. All right, here's a classic pro user move. You can dive into the hidden developer options, don't worry, it's easy, and change the animation speed from 1x down to 0.5x. This one simple tweak literally makes every single tap, swipe, and app opening feel twice as fast. It's not making the processor faster, but man, it makes the whole experience feel so much quicker. And then, for when you're doing something really intense, like playing a demanding game, there's a dedicated high-performance mode. You just add the app to the game mode list, and you're basically telling the phone, hey, for this app, forget about saving battery. I want all the power you've got. It's like hitting a turbo button right when you need it most. So we've talked a lot about the feel of speed, but what about the cold, hard data? Let's pop the hood and see what the raw, measurable power looks like. And yeah, if you look at the raw numbers from a benchmark like N22, you can see the Nothing Phone 2A is not just a pretty face. With a score that's over 738,000, it's not just keeping pace with its competitors, it's straight up outperforming them. This thing has got some serious muscle under the hood. So what do those benchmark scores mean in the real world? Well, here you go. In a half-hour gaming session with a really demanding title, the phone held a steady average of almost 118 frames per second. That is incredibly buttery smooth, and it shows the phone can sustain that high performance when you're really pushing it. And that word right there, consistency, that's the key takeaway. Hitting a high score for a second is one thing, but maintaining that power over a long time without overheating or slowing down, that's what really matters. And stress tests show that Nothing phones can do just that, holding their own against phones that cost way, way more. But, of course, no device is ever perfect. And to get a really honest, complete picture, we gotta look at some of the common performance issues and bugs that users have run into. One of the most common things you might see people talking about, especially after a big software update, is the home screen or the Nothing launcher just freezing. You might reboot your phone and suddenly everything is super laggy or totally unresponsive. Now, the good news is there are a bunch of things you can try to fix this. A lot of the time, it's actually a misbehaving third-party app, and you can figure that out by booting into safe mode. Other times, just clearing the cache for the Nothing launcher app can solve it without having to do a whole factory reset. But this brings up a really crucial point. There's a difference between glitches that you can fix yourself and deeper software bugs. Some issues you can troubleshoot, but others, well, we have to wait for the team at Nothing to push out an official fix.
And here are just a few examples of those kinds of problems that need an official update. Things like the glyph progress bar not syncing up right, or the camera having autofocus problems in other apps. It's just a good reminder that for any company, making software stable is a journey, not a destination. So, after looking at the smart software design, the raw power of the hardware, and some of those real-world bugs, we come all the way back to that first question. What truly makes a phone fast? As we've seen, it's not just one thing. True speed is really a balance of these three elements. It's the subjective feel of a smooth, well-designed interface. It's the objective raw power you can measure in benchmarks and frame rates. And maybe most importantly, it's the stability of having a phone that just works day in and day out without those frustrating bugs. And so I'll leave you with this final thought. For you personally, what matters more? Is it the security of knowing you've got the highest number on a chart? Or is it that totally seamless, invisible experience where the technology just melts away and lets you do what you want to do instantly? Something to think about.